for meat. But I said, want to show you one of our strategies for keeping them strong on their legs. See, like this one's getting around real good. We want them to be able to do that. This one is standing up at the feeder. We want them to be able to do that. This one is standing in the feeder. We don't want them in the feeder, but we do want them to be able to stand and move and climb over things as needed, whatever. We want them to have that agility. Their center of gravity and their point of balance is different as they take these growth spurts, but still we want them to be able to move around. So I actually just have an empty feed sack, and you can't, I know you can't see me walking around them, but let me back the zoom out a little bit. But I just have an empty feed sack, okay? And I'm actually gonna go over here and I'm gonna kind of walk in here amongst the group. I'm just gonna cut in through them, walk slow and calm and talk quietly and kind of talk to them. Hey y'all, let's take a walk. Okay, let's take a walk now. There's a nice little rooster here. We know he's a rooster because his comb is getting real prominent. This is a little hen. There's a rooster. Okay, and you can tell earlier by the wings actually on their, by the feathering on their wings and some of the feather growth. I'm not real super skilled at that, but so, okay, so that's what we did. We just cleared this corner out, right? So now we're gonna go around behind. We're gonna ask these birds to all move too, okay? And we're not trying to scare them, but we do wanna get a little response. We're gonna go ahead, even though they'll stop at those feeders and those waters, we're gonna go ahead and push them out beyond that, okay? Because they'll work their way back. They like the supplemental warmth, so they'll work their way back to this. There's a good bunch of them eating, but there's food, you know, there's food out there if we get them to move. So we're just saying, come on, y'all. You know, I know we're taking the sack, the feed sack, but that's what we're doing with the feed sack. And we, you know the saying, you don't need to yell if a whisper will do, okay? Same here. We're not rattling this feed sack around crazy. We're not going nuts with it. We are putting it near them. We're relying on their responsiveness to move. So in one sense, okay, we're exercising them. And we're making them bear weight on their legs. We're making them move. And that's exercise. So that helps them be strong. Okay, but in another sense, I'm going to have you guys, well, I'm sorry. Yeah. So we're not trying to get that strong a response. I just didn't realize I was that close to that bird. But we're going to be somewhat insistent that they move. Okay. We are going to be insistent that they move. Okay. So part of that, yes, is to get that exercise effect. Get circulation down in their legs, down in their feet. Okay, we want that. Now look at that. Isn't that cool? So look, I mentioned they were all staying in that little bitty space, right? Seemed little bitty, but they weren't crowded. They were comfortable. But we've asked them to move. So they're going to utilize this space for a while until they decide they want to come back to this space. And they are going to want to come back to this space because they want to be about 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's about 55 degrees Fahrenheit outside. So once they're over here, you know, they're comfortable. They're comfortable enough to eat. They're comfortable enough to go drink water. They're comfortable. But to rest, they're going to want to go back over there. And see, we're already getting them back over there. But so I need to tell you the second reason it's so important we move them around. And we do that multiple times a day. And I'm just over here walking around amongst them. Okay. One is to get them to exercise, to encourage them to stand up, to encourage them to move, to encourage them to bear weight. We love to see when they're standing at the feeder. That's the best because they're having to bear their weight and sustain it there while they're standing. And that's one reason we move them around, to get them to bear weight, to exercise, to strengthen the legs, okay? But the other reason is to evaluate them. So when we're asking them to move, we are looking for birds that refuse. And if we see birds that refuse, they're pretty much telling us, I have a leg problem somewhere, okay? I either my foot is sore or I have a problem in the joint of my leg or something, okay? When they won't move, that's a bad deal. That's a bad indicator. Because you saw when we walked through them with a feed sack, all we had to do was gently, you know, move the feed sack around them and walk amongst them, and they want to get out of the way. They want to go to somewhere else because they have, you know, an instinctive need to protect themselves from any potential problem. So they're going to try to get away from the pressure. They're an away from pressure animal. So they want to move away from pressure. So if we have a bird that won't respond by trying to move away from pressure, that tips us off as producers. We probably have a situation here where we need to intervene for wellness with this individual, okay? They should, when we walk around in them, in their pen, we should see them, if they're laying down, we should generally see them stand up and try to move away from us, okay? Even if they stand up and don't want to move away from us, we're still looking at that individual going, okay, are you all right? And so if we find one that won't move, a lot of times we'll go ahead and take that bird and separate it out to a smaller pen. We try not to take it by itself. We would probably find another bird, maybe we'd have one that's a little small for the flock. Maybe it's not keeping up growth-wise. We would try to move the bird with a buddy because they're kind of social animals. They remember faces. It imprints on them. They like to have another one with them, okay? They'll get kind of lonely by themselves. So if we got to move one out of the flock at large into an intervention situation, we try to take a buddy with it, okay? But the great report with this flock is we don't have any birds so far in 4 weeks that have presented an issue with movement. So they're all agile. They all still have their legs. Around here, if we get ones that won't move, we'll say they lost their legs. And that's really bad because several bad things happen if poultry in production for meat loses its legs. First of all, it won't go to food, so it won't stay nourished. More critically, it won't go to water, so it won't stay hydrated. And even worse, for that bird, the other birds will run over it, trample it, and may suffocate it. So if you have a bird that's in meat production that's having a mobility issue, we recommend intervention. You might be able to save that bird for meat production and make it a success if you intervene and get it off in a smaller space where it doesn't have to compete with all the other birds. But if it can't move and it's lost mobility and it has to continue to compete with an entire flock, the bird probably isn't going to be successful for meat production because of maybe malnourishment, dehydration, or suffocation from the other birds. So at any rate, there you go. So another time, we're going to talk about our feed program and routine, and another time we're going to talk about the feathering. The birds have not fought with each other. The birds have not taken the feathers off of the birds. There's not a health issue with the feathering. This is normal and natural. So tune in another time to see, different topics about raising these birds. And if you got questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. But you can see they basically pretty much all have made their way back over there. That's where they want to be because that's where the ambient temperature is preferable to them. That's why we have food and water over there, because we know they're going to want to stay there. And we know they're going to prioritize warmth and the temperature they want over food and water potentially. So we're going to put food and water everywhere. We'll put it out here in hopes that they'll utilize the space at large. Now, if we heated the entire space, the way you saw them spread out when we moved them, that's what they would do. But since this is a small flock, we're only heating that corner, and they have plenty of room, and we're providing plenty of food and water throughout the pen. So let us know if you have any questions, but this is how you make poultry. We're making meat here. This is how you make poultry, and this flock is doing great. It's really a healthy flock of meat birds.